Hey, I'm Amanda from Trifecta Fitness. We're proud to be Clarksville's new Get Fit headquarters. Trifecta Fitness is a state-of-the-art spin and strength training studio. Our spin studio is truly one of a kind in this area, complete with 20 state-of-the-art live fitness bikes and an incredible sound system. Our strength training is done in small groups of 6 or fewer, and all of our strength and spin classes are scalable for every level of experience. Come see us in the heart of Clarksville, just behind MAPCO at the corner of Old Trenton Road and Wilma Rudolph Boulevard. Call us for more info at 931-542-6265 or download our Trifecta Fitness app for a full list of upcoming classes.
Hello, my name is Damon Friedman, co-founder and president of SOF Missions. As a 20-year veteran within Special Operations, I've gone through many challenges due to my military service and time in combat. We felt called to start SOF Missions to serve our fellow brothers and sisters in arms, focusing on suicide prevention and resiliency. Our mission at SOF Missions is to empower warriors to find purpose and be resilient. Since 2011, when we started the organization, almost 3 million men and women have deployed to Iraq and Afghanistan. Unfortunately, the scars of war take a toll on their psychological, physical, social, and spiritual health. Many veterans feel a sense of hopelessness and a loss of purpose when they return to civilian life. They feel isolated and alone, unable to reconnect. And in the greatest of tragedies, over 20 veterans lose all hope and take their own lives. Our goal at SOF Missions is to provide veterans the tools and resources so that they don't become a statistic. We offer a unique approach to combating veteran suicide through a whole health intradisciplinary model. The Be Resilient program is a 4-pillar methodology that addresses the areas of psychological, physical, social, and spiritual wellness. We provide care through 3 delivery methods: medical clinics, retreats, and educational training. Since we started back in 2011, we have been able to reach veterans in all 50 states and have served over 3,000 veterans through the Be Resilient program. Being resilient is a multifaceted and complex issue. We know that to find a lasting solution, we have to address the whole warrior. Many challenges cannot be solved by providing the treatments and modalities of just one component, but by tackling them all. Now, we've expanded our services to include law enforcement and first responders. Together, we can make a lasting impact in the lives of warriors across the nation. To learn more, visit our website at sofmissions.org.
For your post assignment. All units proceed to your post assignment.
All right. Welcome back.
MisFitNation. MisFitNation. The MisFitNation show.
We are a show founded by a veteran and hosted by 2 veterans and a military spouse. Our mission is to get people to tell their stories to the world. If you're an author, share your tips with the MisFitNation. If you're a musician or an actor, our audience needs to know how they too can get into the business. Coaches, we love our coaches. Come on and share your tips with the MisFitNation to help them become better versions of themselves. If you are a corporate leader or an entrepreneur, come on and show how you did it and how hard you have fought for success. If you are a veteran, first responder, or Gold Star family, we would love to have you come on and share your story with the MisFitNation. We always have time for you. If you're feeling down, alone, or starting to see the darkness, Stop. Think about those who are around you. You are not alone. You will be missed. If you feel like your problems will be a burden to those in your inner circle or feel embarrassed, dial 988. If you are a veteran, take option 1. We need you to keep pushing forward. Don't make a permanent solution to a temporary problem. If you are a new listener, welcome to the MisFitNation show. Be sure to subscribe to our show on your favorite podcast app. Also on our YouTube channel at @the_MisFitNation. Subscribe and click the bell to keep you up to date on our latest episodes and all of our news. You can also find us on Heroes Media Group and About Face Radio. Now, let's get to the show!
All All right. Welcome back to the MisFitNation show. As you can see, we're in a new location. We have moved studios. We're in Studio 1B now, as we have moved rooms within our studio area to get more space so we can actually bring guests in studio in the future. Thank you for coming on tonight on this Thursday. I know it's March Madness and the kickoff has started. There's already been one upset. McNeese State with the victory over Clemson. Congratulations, McNeese State. Everyone that's on with us tonight, thank you for taking the time to hang out with us, and you can get back to basketball in about an hour. There are no losses to report tonight from our law enforcement brothers and sisters, but as we've been doing this month, we're highlighting female heroes from the military, and tonight we're going to highlight Army Sergeant Zanaya Creamer. She was with us in 2010-11 in Kandahar, Afghanistan. She was a K-9 handler, great leader, and a great soldier. We lost her on January 12, 2011 due to an improvised explosive device. Our thoughts and prayers stay with her family, and we remember her and honor her today with our thoughts on her today. Tonight, our guest is an esteemed keynote speaker, strategist, and author with over 35 years of experience in customer success and digital strategy. He is the author of Customer Transformation and recognized by global gurus in 2024. He actively advises in the AI, marketing, and gaming sectors and teaches at Southern New Hampshire University. So without further ado, let's welcome Mr. Chris Hood. Welcome, Chris.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on. We thought we were going to have a no-show there until you popped in at the last second. So thanks for coming in. So we just gave about a 2-sentence overview of you, Chris. If you don't mind, tell us a little more about you from as far back as you want to go to how we got here.
Yeah, sure. I usually go back to one of my first jobs, which was working at a movie theater. And I started by selling popcorn and taking tickets at the front door and all that kind of fun stuff, even cleaning up after people, cleaning those theaters and auditoriums. But I really enjoyed it. I fell in love with just the process of talking with people who are coming in and what their favorite movies were and why they were there. And as I progressed through that particular job, I had a opportunity to start doing some marketing work at the theater, and I did public relations for the theater. And one of the roles that I had was actually going into the theater before the movie started and welcoming the audiences. Now, of course, back then, we actually had full audiences of 500, 600 people standing in line, waiting to go and see movies like Jurassic Park. And so it was a lot of fun because you had a passionate fan base who were there, and sometimes they were a little rowdy, but it was okay. I did trivia questions. I handed out movie posters and T-shirts and different types of swag for the movies, and it was a blast. And what I started to pick up from that was this sense of how do you make the customer experience interesting? How do you make it so that people want to come back? How do you build relationships through that process? And again, at that time, I was 18, 19. I stayed at the theater for almost 10 years.
Wow.
And then after I left, began doing additional work in the film industry, as well as television and music and video games. And I kept within that whole entertainment environment, trying to figure out ways to entertain consumers. And even when I began working more in technology, there was a very natural segue, because as people started to look for new websites to be built, or then we need an app for that, or even now when we start thinking about like how artificial intelligence is impacting the way we shop and experience different businesses, all of it is about entertainment in one way or the other. If you can make a positive, interesting, interactive experience that has a story to it and can really dive into what the consumer wants, most likely So a lot of what I've done in the past, say 10 years, working for companies like Disney and Google, has all been around bridging the gap between technology and storytelling and developing unique experiences so that you can really generate and grow your business.
Outstanding. And 10 years in a movie theater, I'm sure you met a lot of great characters while working in the theater. You said you got to clean up after them. I'm sure you moved up the chain from front door ticket guy to greeter to probably manager or general manager by the time you left in 10 years. But that's a lot of years in a movie theater. And I'm glad you survived that. My daughter did it for, I think, 3 years, and she was ready to pull all her hair out. So good on you. And since those days in the theater, I'm sure you learned the customer experience there. But like you said, times changed. And how did you learn to, I guess, change with that time to meet the customer where they were in order to get their business?
Well, it's interesting because I think even if we look at the frameworks of what is good customer experience, or even us as consumers ourselves, what do we expect when we go to, say, a restaurant, or we go out and want to be at a particular venue, for entertainment? We've often heard the phrase, the customer is always right,
Right.
as an example. And I'm sure there's lots of people out there who feel like, yes, the customer is always right. And there's probably just as many people out there who think, no, they're not always right. And you can't always listen to the customer. And definitely, I think even now, I learned that back when I was 18. It kind of stuck with me. And as I've grown in that mindset, I've started to realize that no, the customer may not always be right. And sometimes they're probably completely unreasonable in the process. But what's interesting is that if you look at it more broadly, one customer may or may not always be right. But if you've got, say, 10,000 customers, you have 100,000 customers, and the bulk of those customers say they want something, then the customers, we can put a percentage to that if we want, are always right. And if you ignore that and you steer away from what the customers are asking for, then you're going to have a problem. And it really doesn't matter what the technology is.
Right.
Like that mindset just by itself, serving your customers and making sure that you deliver what they are asking for, will be maintained no matter. It's been true for over 2,000 years pretty much, and it's going to continue to be true for, say, another 2,000 years. Businesses are in business to serve customers. They have problems, they come to you to solve those problems, and if you can't solve those problems, they go somewhere else into a different business that can. It doesn't matter what the technology is. It never has mattered. You might make it a little bit more convenient, faster. There might be additional features or services that are included with that. But if you think about it solely from that basic premise, then as the technology evolves, and right now it's all about AI, but what happens after that? After that, it becomes something completely different. And after that, it becomes something different. Yet the customer is still always going to be there, and it's always going to need to be coming to you to solve its problem. And, there's going to be price and fluctuations and market trends and all of those things. But you can really just boil this down to, well, once again, how am I going to serve that customer, and what do they want, and can I deliver that?
Very good. And you brought up AI, and I was talking to a guy yesterday, and he was talking about, when we go to a stadium, AI is already in there trying to figure out what your next move is based off what's in your phone, or what the algorithms are telling them. AI is good for the marketing side of business, but you still have to have that human connection. If someone comes into your storefront or someone talks to you, you have to have that human connection. Have you seen a gap in that in recent time due to people not really talking to each other?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You mentioned my first book at the intro. I just released a second book called Infailible And it's all about AI and how artificial intelligence is creating changes in how consumers behave, and also how businesses interact with those consumers. And what we found was, as you start to understand what consumers believe in terms of the capabilities of AI, and whether it's fear or interest in AI, both sides, that there is a complete misunderstanding of what AI actually is and what it can actually do. And as a result, you've got a lot of people who are reading the hype around artificial intelligence, and they're starting to implement it in marketing or in various types of ways, like as you talked about. And they are presenting these experiences without considering what the consumer actually is interested in. Think about it like if you go to, say, a Target or a grocery store, odds are there is a self-checkout line now. And you can either go through self-checkout, or you could go and go through with somebody who's going to assist you. You have the option. But what's happening is that organizations are imposing AI into the experiences, and that the consumer, the general consumer, is actually not interested in engaging with that company in those ways. And so when that happens, now you go back to have a disconnect between what the consumer wants, what they're expecting, what they need from you, and all of this other fancy, whatever you want to call it, is wrapped around that experience, which, if it overly complicates that experience, they're going to go to your competitor, who is most likely having a more natural experience. And we're seeing that in a couple of different areas, like Discover Card right now, as an example. Their entire marketing campaign is around you can talk to a real person.
Yes.
Right? They had the football at the Super Bowl whole commercial, like, wow, you sound like a robot. You sound really I am a real person. And so when you are now differentiating yourself in the marketplace by saying you can talk to a real person, that shows you how extreme we've gotten between different organizations. And Discover's value has skyrocketed in just the last 6 months or so, solely because consumers are like, well, wait a second, why would I want to bank with one bank who doesn't want to talk to me when I can bank with another bank who does want to talk to me? And those options are going to be really powerful for consumers as we move forward.
And I know the heartache and pain of not being able to talk to a bank. My bank is not where I am; it's in Texas, and it usually takes at least 4.5, 5 minutes to get through all the AI computerized stuff to get to a human, and then you got to go through it all again to ensure that human knows what you're saying. And so it gets frustrating that way. And most times I have a local bank here as well. I'd like to just go there just to talk to a human and have interaction and see how they react when you talk to them. So those Discover commercials were funny though. I liked them, and it was the lady from American Pie was in it. How do I know you're not human? And she,
Yeah.
yeah,
And if we directed this more towards something your audience is probably thinking about, or which may be a little bit more relevant. I was watching the intros, and one of the intros were about soldiers that might be going through challenging times, depression or whatnot. And if we think about that, when we say, call this number, we would like to talk to you, we want to help you through that. Imagine if somebody who's really in need right now calls a number and there's not a human on the other side. And all of a sudden it's an AI trying to coach you. Yep. It's a really interesting conversation, because there are a lot of research happening right now in, can AI help in suicide prevention or depression, and in those moments? And what happens if it's at 2:00 in the morning and somebody may or may not be available? Could you create an AI that is capable of sounding human enough to create an environment of comfort just for a couple of minutes, until you could get a real person available to you. And I think there is a lot of interesting research and studies going on in that space, but it still demonstrates that when a human needs to talk to somebody, they are looking to talk to another human. Right. And this is one area where AI is simply not going to be able to help us. And I think, longer term impacts, when we think about the psychological and the emotional impacts of losing that human connection, that is at stake when we over technologicalize something between, in conversation.
Definitely does. We got a question from the audience just popped up from @crackcorn. As AI continues to evolve, how do you see it reshaping customer experiences and storytelling in the next decade? Thank you, Crackhorn.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think a lot of people believe that AI will help with these consumer experiences or even storytelling. The way I kind of think about it is like a choose your own adventure. If you ever read those books, or if your kids read those books, you're reading, like turn to page 13, and then you're reading and pick A or B. Okay, back to page 7. Imagine a customer experience that was kind of a choose your own adventure. It's interesting because I'll use Taco Bell as an example. Taco Bell is really doing its best to introduce AI into their locations. If you go through the drive-thru right now, you have an AI assistant. AI assistant is asking you for your order. If you go into the restaurant, there's a kiosk. You're basically forced to use some sort of device to place your order. You can even do it from your phone now. But people keep saying, well, that's a better experience. I'm like, well, but is it? Like, is it a better experience? It still doesn't know who I am. Right. I mean, a personalized experience would be as soon as I drive up, it would be able to scan my license plate, know who I am, get information about me, and say, welcome back, Chris. Here's what you ordered the last time you were here. Would you like the same thing? Now, that level of technology is already available to us. There are some privacy and probably ethical concerns around it. But when we start talking about personalized experiences and storytelling that AI has the capability of doing, it absolutely does. But there's all these other factors involved that are actually preventing it from happening. And on top of all of that, it's very complex to make it all happen the way we think. Our experience or our understanding of AI in general comes from the movies, going all the way back. We think about like movies like Terminator and War Games and, yes. And Bicentennial Man, like those movies give us, even Star Trek, right? Give us this sense of, well, I should be able to go and replicate my food when I get to Taco Bell. But that's just not the case. And I think what we are seeing a lot of is the experiences and the storytelling that people are looking for are not necessarily aligned with the expectations or the capabilities of the technology itself. So I do think that will have a drastic improvement over the course of the next 5 years. But we're also going to have to get through a lot of the regulatory issues to really enhance those experiences.
Oh, definitely. A lot of every technology winds up the regulatory side of it, no matter what part of AI, machine learning, Internet of Things, edge computing. It all has this regulatory guidance that's kind of right now in this gray area because they don't know what to do with a lot of it. They're trying to do as much as they can to regulate it, but it's hard to regulate something that hasn't hit its peak yet. And I think it's going to be a fun decade ahead of us as we see technology rapidly advance and more people are able to dive into those technologies.
Yeah.
We got another question from the audience. This is a pretty cool name. At DJ Smooth 2025, your book Customer Transformation has been a hit. Can you share the most surprising feedback you've received from readers about transforming their customer experience?
Yeah, I maybe it's not surprising anymore, but what I'll say is that most people have a belief of what their customer experience is. And after I talk to them, they realize that, if we were to grade people, I'll often go in to do a workshop with an organization and I'll say, how many people think, raise your hands, how many people think that you do incredible work with customer experience? Excuse me. I'm also just getting over cold. Most likely, all of the people in the audience will raise their hand. Yes, we're doing an incredible job. Grade yourself. A+. Yes, we've got it. I'll say, great. Let's go through the workshop, and we'll proceed to go through the workshop. And by the end of the workshop, I'll say, now, thinking back about how you graded yourself at the beginning, how would you grade yourself now? And it's usually, D, F, some will say C, because what they believe they are actually doing and what they are in reality doing, it's not aligning. And my first book, Customer Transformation, is a framework to help them walk through that process. And what you discover is that they believe that they're doing all these things, but when you dive into it, they realize they're not doing all those things. And so it helps them to really start thinking through questions and processes and cultural elements of an organization that really helps them enhance how they tackle customer experience. And I think back to that question, the really eye-opening thing is how many people believe they're already doing it right, and how many people really aren't.
That's a great answer. Thank you, DJ Smooth 2025. Great question. Chris, great answer too, DJ Smooth. In your bio, you talked about the customer journey maps, and are they dead? Customer journey maps are dead. What is a customer journey map, and why are they dead?
Yeah, this is one of those examples of when you start to walk through it with an organization, they start to realize that they could be doing a better job. So a customer journey map at a very basic level is a process by which teams go through to map what a customer will do, their individual journey, to go through your company and generate a sale, and potentially what happens after that sale. So, for example, how do you reach them, right? It might be email. How do you build awareness? Maybe it's an email, newsletter. It could be a video. It could be an advertisement. It could be your website. At what point in time did they express interest? Same thing. They might fill out a form. They might send you an email. Where did they actually buy? Was it at a store? Was it in the website, et cetera? And so companies will build personas. They'll say, like, Chris, he's a 50-plus-year-old male. He likes movies, and he's looking for, whatever. And they build those personas, and then they start to predict kind of what that journey map would look like. And when they find problems, they'll say, okay, this seems to be a problem. Let's fix this problem and make that journey easier. Again, example of that is you sent me an email with a discount code. I've clicked on the link, but it actually doesn't work. And so now I'm frustrated and I don't buy something. So I've just left the journey. So then we've got to course correct. We got to fix that, process. That's your typical customer journey map, overly simplified. The problem with it today is that we as consumers ourselves, we do not move in a linear fashion. No one is sitting here saying, okay, I'm going to go from this step to this step. And usually what is happening is we are experiencing a lot of different things simultaneously, and they are interconnecting with each other, as well as multi-sensory even. You might be watching this particular episode. You may be listening to this particular episode. Completely different experiences. You also may be driving and listening to this episode, which changes that experience. And you might be driving to Taco Bell while listening to this experience. And when you reach Taco Bell, you're thinking, oh, I want to buy Chris's book, but you're going to get to Taco Bell first. And right, it's all over the place.
Right.
Think about grocery stores. You're in the grocery store, you're going up and down, you're looking for your food. All of a sudden you realize, oh crap, I forgot to pay that bill. And you stop in the middle of the aisle, you pull out your phone, you pay the bill because you need the money to come out so that you can pay for your groceries. Like, that's reality. We are in this multi-dimensional reality, and all of the things that are happening interconnectedly in different formats, in different senses. And we also are doing things before we even enter your business. And we're doing things after. If we go back to the movie theater example, I don't know about you, but a typical customer journey map says that, either I buy the ticket or I learn about the movie, I buy the ticket, I pick my seats, right? I might buy it online, I might go, to the theater, but it's all contained within the theater experience.
Right.
But I don't know about you, before I go to the movies, I'm like stopping off at the grocery store, buying some candy, smuggling that candy in through my jacket, making sure that I'm wearing a baggy enough jacket to hide that candy. I'm maybe making dinner reservations, figuring out who the babysitter is going to be for the night. I'm making the plans, going and picking up or meeting somebody. I'm picking my seats. I don't know if you're like, go to get into your seats first and then go to the concession stand, or maybe you go to the concession stand, then get your seats. Like, everybody's different. And then even after that, I might be talking with friends about the movie, posting reviews, saying, hey, like, I love this movie. I'm going to want to go back. Anybody want to go see it again? Like, all of that is real life.
Right.
And none of that is actually captured in customer journey maps. And so for organizations to recognize what is happening before and what's happening after and what's happening intermittently in between, that is why today's traditional journey maps are not working. And, one of the workshops that I do is an actual process of building out one of these more multi-dimensional journey maps, which are really more insightful and will genuinely help you better understand who your consumer is.
Outstanding. And we briefly touched on Infallible, the artificial intelligence ideology reshaping consumer behavior earlier in the episode here. If you don't mind, tell us a little, what drove you to write that and how's it doing right now?
It's doing phenomenal. It's got 30 plus 5-star reviews. It's already been on the bestseller list multiple times. It's been number one in multiple categories, including artificial intelligence. It's done outstanding. It's great. But what I was noticing is, this kind of misunderstanding of what artificial intelligence really is, and the overhype of artificial intelligence. And as people were overly hyping it and talking about it and really trying to sell it based on things that it can't do, I felt like I call it the artificial intelligence ideology. Really what I started seeing was this almost religious belief system in AI. And I thought it was an interesting angle to touch on, which was, our belief in a technology that has been more rapid than any technology I've seen ever. I think is actually probably more harmful to us than positive. And I wanted to at least present a view of AI from a kind of a reality check and compare it against human intelligence. So every chapter has a human intelligence against a different version of artificial intelligence, and I kind of pit them together to kind of see which one wins out, and puts that against also different elements of your business and how you can look at it. I'm not against AI. I've used AI myself for multiple years. I'm very familiar with AI. I teach AI. It's not a matter of being against AI. It's a matter of people need to really educate themselves so that they can understand what it is able to do and what it's not able to do, so that you can learn where to put it appropriately within your company.
And as a professor at Southern New Hampshire, have you seen the school or any other schools kind of try to steer students away from using like AI products like Chat GPT or the
Oh yeah.
Grammarly advanced and stuff like that? So they have to do research.
Yeah, most universities right now, including Southern New Hampshire, looks at the use of AI to generate work. That's the key difference here, as plagiarism, which I agree with. I've actually conducted my own personal research over the course of the last 3 years, and I've directly seen a correlation that the increase use of artificial intelligence like ChatGPT to generate your homework assignments has actually had a direct impact on grades. And so as the use has gone up, letter grades have declined. Critical thinking skills are drastically declining because of the use of artificial intelligence. This is primarily because you're not actually learning anything. And sure, there are people out there who will use it to educate themselves. But when we get to a point of just cutting and pasting the response into a document and turning it in as an assignment, and you don't actually know what's in it, that means that you're not actually learning. And so there's a lot of people out there who want to take the easy route, in which case we are degrading our critical thinking skills just because of artificial intelligence.
And it goes back to that with Staples, the easy button. Just hit the easy button. It makes things so much better for everyone. And like you said, critical thinking is out the window with that. And that combined with the overuse of the phone and the pocket computer that most people have, they never look up. So you don't critically think, and then you don't have interaction because you're always looking at that phone. If you just look up those 3 inches, you might have a great day.
Yeah, there was research. I don't have the link off the top of my head, but there was research sometime last year that asked college students, do they know how to change a light bulb? And it was actually amazing how many people do not.
Wow.
Now, we could argue there's a couple of sides to this, right? Newer light bulbs don't require being changed as often, but they're also not presented with the basic premise of, what is the light bulb and can you change it and how to go about changing it. And so things like that become unique case studies for how AI, and social media and mobile devices and the education system and several other factors, but how that is impacting how we think through various problems.
Definitely. Got another question from the audience now, Chris. This is from at HeadStart123. Chris, with your experience at Google and other major companies, what do you think is the most common mistake businesses make when trying to align their digital strategy with customer needs?
This one is pretty consistent, and that is, it's not even just big companies. It's really a lot of companies, and definitely entrepreneurs who are out there right now thinking about starting a business. Is they're starting with the technology. So you think like digital strategy. It's got to be digital, right? We've got to think about the technology that we want to implement, and we've been talking about AI as an example. Pretty much every business that I am talking to right now, they're all starting with, I want to build an AI business. Why? That's really the question, right? When we think about a customer experience or a business in general, we touched on this earlier. You start a business because you're solving a problem, and you have a consumer that has a problem that you want to solve. That's the starting point. We don't talk about the technology. There's so many other factors that are involved with that leading up to the technology. I often say customer first, technology is last, and maybe you'll use AI. Right. because there are plenty of technologies out there that will solve the particular problem that customer has that doesn't even require AI to do it. And so when people start thinking about like their business and their digital strategy and how they're going, it's usually always focused on, well, what's the technology? And that's the wrong place to start. You're starting backwards. You still have to ultimately go to what is the problem we're solving? You know, who is our customer? And then we can start thinking about like, well, what's our team makeup look like? What's the culture of our organization? What are the customers saying? What's the market strategy? What's our competition looking at? Like all those other factors are all part of the strategy way before you even get to, well, okay, now we have all of that information. Now let's actually think about this digitally and technologically, and then think about how we're going to actually implement it. That's the digital strategy. But you can't answer those questions if you're starting with the technology first.
Outstanding. Head Start 1, 2, 3. I hope that answers your question. Chris, I think that was a great answer. I understood it, so hopefully they understood it. Another one came in while you were saying that one. This is from @BizSexy. Chris, you've worked with companies like Disney and Fox. Can you share a memorable challenge you faced in storytelling technology and how you overcame it?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. There's really interesting ones. Like, I was working on Glee, and one of the cast members committed suicide, and then all of a sudden you're faced with a show that was hugely popular, and how you're going to, introduce this issue into the script, and how are you going to expose this through a marketing campaign to make it, meaningful. I worked on 24, and we were trying to figure out how to extend the show to a mobile device so that when you sat in front of the TV, you watched the episode, but when that episode was over, what did you do for the rest of the week? And could we continue the story in other perspectives throughout the week, so that it leads up back to the next episode? And you had to do that without actually knowing too much about what the next episode was, because it was usually well protected. On American Idol, we talked about how do we make voting more personalized? How do we, get away from dial 1-800 and enter this PIN code and things like that in the early days of American Idol. Now, you can kind of log in and vote. Yeah, there's a lot of really interesting stories that all happen kind of behind the scenes that most people probably haven't even thought of. And it really just boils down to, does the story ever really end? And how do you create story opportunities that drive social media engagement and marketing trends so that, you can expand the awareness of a particular show. And usually in most cases, it's unknown. So for example, How I Met Your Mother, which is, one of my favorite all-time shows, you might have an episode and then all of a sudden something completely goes viral because of something that somebody said on that episode for that night. Now your entire marketing strategy has shifted because you're jumping on that bandwagon to ride the wave of whatever it is. Right. And that's how you have to think about it. You've just got to be able to continuously evolve and think about stories, again, more multidimensional, like we talked about with the customer journey map, and figure out how you adapt to those.
Outstanding. I'm sure that Glee situation was probably really hard for everyone behind the scenes, and to make it almost look seamless for the audience. And there's a lot of diehard fans of that show when it happened. I know there was a lot of memorials put up around with fan bases, and I'm sure it was a lot of late nights trying to figure that whole strategy out. And I think you guys did well with that one. 24, I didn't even think about the handheld and all that stuff. And I always thought 24 would just be one season with 24 hours, and it was a good show. So. And we have, I think, one more question popped in while we were chatting again. And from at not a saint. Let me get it into the comments here. There we go. As a professor at Southern New Hampshire University, what's the most important lesson you hope your students take away when it comes to bridging business strategy and technology? Thanks, not a saint.
Yeah, I think, you know, um, what's interesting is a lot of times when students start my class, they have a concern that they don't understand the technology, right? I get a lot of, as an example, I get a lot of nurses in nursing school or medical practitioners. Sometimes I'll get artists, whatever. And they look at the syllabus and they see all these technologies and they're really concerned that the course is going to be more focused on technology than business, or in most cases, they don't even understand why they're in the class because it is not relevant to their career whatsoever.
Right.
And I touched on this actually when we started, and it's that the technology that we often talk about, like social media or the internet, cloud computing, don't think about it as technology. Think about it as how do you engage with brands yourself already. And we as consumers, like, I use a very basic, simple example. We'll go back to the grocery store. You fill your cart up with groceries, you go through checkout, and if the attendant says, sorry, we don't take credit cards anymore, we only take cash, most people would be like, huh? What do you mean? Like, you understand the process. You understand that I go to the grocery store, I use my credit card, and even now, a lot of people are using Apple Pay or Samsung or, Google Pay or whatever. You scan your phone, you pay. Like, you understand that. There's no science behind this, really. It's your own experience. And I guarantee you, you formulate an opinion no matter what business you go to. You go to dinner, you're sitting there and you're grading them on the service, the competence, the food quality, whatever it is. If you go to the grocery store and they say they don't take credit cards, they only take cash, you're formulating an opinion. We're all very opinionated people. Those opinions can help you drive your business strategy. So you already know the technologies. You're using social media. Excuse me. You're using social media. You're using the internet. You're using applications. You're probably using AI and not even realizing it. If you've got a Netflix account, you're using AI and it doesn't say powered by AI. All of these things are technologies that are around us. So you don't really have to think about it. All you have to do, like if I said to you right now, okay, we're going to create a new business and here's the problem and yada, 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 fill in all the other stuff. And now let's think about, like, what are the technologies that we might want to use? I guarantee every person who is listening can rattle off a list of a bunch of technologies that we could potentially use to serve the customer. Right. That's not hard to do. And so even at a basic level, and especially with my students, I say, put on your own shoes, like your own experiences. What do you experience when you go into the grocery store? What do you like about that? What don't you like? What would you change? And that becomes the business strategy. And that becomes how you leverage the technology to adapt and change that business strategy.
That's awesome answer right there. And I think a lot of students now coming up, they're so ingrained with technology because they get technology as soon as they go to my granddaughter in kindergarten had a tablet, and now first grade, of course, she has her own little tablet. And it's like if they don't have that during the day, they get kind of shakes like an addict. So it's really weird to see that dynamic now as opposed to when we both went to those levels of schooling when you just learned. You had a book in front of you and you did what the teacher said, or consequences occurred to you when you got home if you made it home before the consequences happened. So it's a wonderful world we live in, and especially at being in our 50s now and seeing all the things that have advanced through our age from the time we were just little kids until where we are now. As now me and you were talking to each other from different parts of the country seamlessly over the internet. That's something that we never thought would have happened while we were kids, unless we watched a lot of Star Trek. So it, like you mentioned that before, looking at movies. A guy I work with, he always says that when we're teaching our classes, he said, I feel like I'm teaching from inside a science fiction movie now, the way things are for you as we're doing things. And I think it's true. So, Chris, we hit a lot of subjects tonight, of course, and time flies when we're having fun. What's the best way for people to get in contact with you if they want to either have you on their show or just to pick your brain?
Yeah, the best way is just reach out to me on my website. You can find me at chrishood.com, CHRISHOOD.com. And there you'll find my social media profiles. You can connect with me on LinkedIn if you'd like. And you'll find my blogs and my podcasts and videos and all of that other kind of fun stuff. And you can get links to my books, pick up a copy, and reach out, say hi. But it's all right there on my website, chrishood.com.
Awesome. And that link is in the chat, as long with the link to the Infallible book on Amazon. I put both of them in the chat right now. You can see both of them. They're both have been popped up on the screen. Chris, thanks for hanging out tonight. Before we let you go, there's something we ask every guest before they leave. What's 3 things you do every day that you feel makes you successful and might help the Misfit Nation to be successful as they go through their day?
I wake up, I take a nap, and go to sleep. As long as I can live my life, everything else in between doesn't matter. Just wake up every day.
That's a victory.
Yeah, that's a victory.
Yes, it is.
I bet you no one has answered it that way.
Not at all.
And look, I love taking naps. I know it's not for everybody, but for me, I enjoy a good nap. It helps me, re-stimulates me. I actually don't sleep much during the evening. So, a nap a day just gets me through the middle and then re-stimulates me. I go for another 6 hours. So I probably do a 6 hours nap, 6 hours. And, but yeah, I mean, look, it might be a little bit more deeper than that, but I think people, just wake up, get out of bed, start your day, do what you want to do, go to bed, be happy that you lived another day, and repeat that process.
Outstanding. Chris, thank you for hanging outside. Misfit Nation, you've been great tonight. Very interactive. I enjoyed your questions. I hope Chris enjoyed your questions. Have a great night. We'll see you Sunday night, and we love you. Have a great night.
Troops in contact. Target compound.
Combat, it's killing. That's what it is. And it's done in an environment that is often as difficult as you can possibly imagine. Extremes of climate, it's uncivilized, and women can't do it. The requirements for strength and endurance render them unable to do it. Doesn't work.
I knew the moment I stepped in over there at Bragg, I was like, we are being watched and something bigger is shaking out, I guarantee it.
You're looking at each other. Is she as tough as I am?
It was a bunch of female alphas.
You're doing this for every other woman that's going to come after you. Any argument that a man's going to have about why women shouldn't be allowed to be here, don't contribute one iota.
I thought, war? What are you doing here?
It was a man's club. Like, that is the lion's den that we just walked into.
For 8 years of a war, we didn't see the other half of a target book.
You bring a white man in a very intimidating US uniform. A lot of women will feel uncomfortable.
We're gonna go into that darkness and just be like, you need this done? Okay, let's go.
This is not what I was expecting at all.
Nobody cares if you're a man or a woman. You are defined by your actions purely.
Having this one woman on target freed up probably 4 guys.
I would have liked to have seen that play out a little bit.
I start to wonder if you're there too long, if whatever gains you made start to erode themselves, and soon you leave in the same place you started. What does winning look like?
War's not stopping. How long has America been around? How many wars we been in? Conflicts? Only thing changed is the date.
Thanks for checking us out and being a part of the Misfit Nation show. Don't forget to visit our website at themisfitnation.com. That's themisfitnation.com. Check out all our past episodes and get some of the great Misfit Nation gear for you and your family. As always, be humble, stay hungry, and keep hustling because we are
Misfit Nation. Misfit Nation.